A CRM can contain a large amount of information and still be unreliable. The problem is often not missing data, it is unclear meaning. One contact is marked as a lead, another is marked as qualified, another appears as an opportunity. But if those stages do not have precise definitions, the labels become subjective. Different people start using the same stage for different situations. A new contact may be treated like a qualified lead. A qualified lead may be treated like an active opportunity. An inactive case may remain visible, as if real movement still exists. The CRM looks organized, but underneath, the system is mixing different levels of readiness, intent, and commercial value. That weakens everything built on top of it. Reporting becomes less trustworthy, follow-up becomes inconsistent. Automation starts reacting to statuses that do not mean the same thing across the business. And the pipeline begins showing a version of reality that is cleaner than the truth, but less accurate. Clear lifecycle stages solve this problem by giving each status a specific operational meaning. They define what must be true before a contact moves forward. Because a CRM becomes reliable only when its categories represent real differences in the customer journey. Without that clarity, the system stores information, but it does not create reliable understanding.
This problem becomes more serious when lifecycle stages are used to guide decisions. A business may use them to decide who receives attention, which contacts enter automation, which leads move towards sales, and which opportunities appear in performance reports. But if the stages are unclear, those decisions inherit the same confusion. A contact may receive advanced follow-up before showing real intent. A lead may enter a sales sequence without meeting basic qualification conditions. An inactive contact may continue influencing conversion rates as if it were still moving. The system is not failing because it lacks activity. It is failing because the activity is being triggered by unreliable categories. This is why lifecycle stages must describe observable conditions, not vague impressions. A lead should not become qualified because someone feels positive about the conversation. It should become qualified because specific evidence exists. The problem is relevant. The contact fits the intended customer profile. There is enough interest to justify a next step, and the case has moved beyond simple awareness. The exact criteria may differ between businesses, but the principle stays the same. Each stage must answer a clear operational question. What does this status mean? What evidence supports it? And what action should happen because of it? When those answers are missing, the CRM may still look active, but the business cannot rely on what the activity represents. Clear lifecycle stages also prevent contacts from moving forward for the wrong reasons. In many CRM systems, progress is recorded because an action happened. An email was opened, a form was completed, a meeting was booked, a sales conversation started. These actions can be useful signals, but activity alone does not always represent a real change in lifecycle position. A contact may download content without becoming qualified. A lead may attend a meeting without having a serious need. An opportunity may remain active without a credible decision process or realistic next step. That is why stage movement should depend on meaning, not only activity. The business must understand what changed in the relationship before changing the status. Did the contact move from awareness to genuine interest? Did the lead show enough fit and intent to justify qualification? Did the qualified lead enter a real commercial process? Did the opportunity produce evidence of decision readiness? These transitions should represent meaningful progress. Otherwise, the CRM begins rewarding motion instead of progress. Contacts move forward because something happened, not because their commercial reality became stronger. A reliable lifecycle system creates clear boundaries between stages. Each boundary explains what new evidence is required before the contact can move forward. That keeps the CRM from becoming a collection of optimistic status changes. It turns lifecycle movement into a controlled interpretation of what is actually happening. Lifecycle clarity also improves the way different teams work together. Marketing may define a lead based on engagement. Sales may define a lead based on commercial potential. Customer teams may use another status entirely to describe the same contact. If those meanings are not aligned, the CRM becomes a shared system with competing interpretations. Marketing may believe it is delivering qualified leads. Sales may believe those leads are still too early. Management may see high lead volume and expect stronger results. But each group is measuring something different. This creates friction that looks like a performance problem. In reality, it is often a definition problem. Clear lifecycle stages create a common language. They explain when marketing responsibility changes, when sales ownership begins, and when a contact has entered a genuine opportunity process. That shared language reduces unnecessary debate. It becomes easier to identify where leads slow down, where qualification is weak, and where handoffs are happening too early or too late. A reliable CRM should not force teams to interpret every status for themselves. The meaning should already be built into the system. Because when lifecycle stages are understood consistently, the CRM becomes more than a contact database. It becomes a reliable map of how relationships actually move through the business.
Clear lifecycle stages also make reporting more useful. A report can show how many leads were created, how many became qualified, and how many entered the opportunity pipeline. But those numbers only matter if each stage has a consistent meaning. If qualification standards change from person to person, the conversion rate does not describe one reliable process. If inactive contacts remain in active stages, the CRM may overstate commercial potential. If opportunities are created before real buying conditions exist, pipeline value becomes inflated. The report still produces numbers, but the numbers no longer explain reality with enough precision. This is why reliable reporting begins before the dashboard. It begins with the definitions inside the CRM. Every lifecycle stage should represent a clear change in the relationship. Every movement should be supported by observable evidence. And every report should measure contacts that reached the same standard, not contacts that received the same label for different reasons. When lifecycle definitions are stable, conversion rates become easier to interpret. The business can see where real progression happens, where contacts stop moving, and where qualification standards may be too weak or too restrictive. A dashboard cannot repair unclear lifecycle logic. It can only present the confusion in a more organized way. Reliable reporting depends on reliable categories first.
A stronger lifecycle system does not need dozens of stages. More categories do not automatically create more precision. In fact, too many stages can introduce a different kind of confusion. People forget which status to use. Small differences become difficult to interpret. Contacts move between stages without a meaningful change in how the business should respond. The goal is not to describe every possible detail. The goal is to identify the few transitions that genuinely change ownership, priority, communication, or commercial confidence. Each stage should therefore have a clear purpose. It should explain what is known about the contact. It should define what action is appropriate now. And it should clarify what evidence is needed before the relationship moves forward again. If two lifecycle stages lead to the same action and represent almost the same conditions, the distinction may not be useful. A reliable CRM is not the system with the most labels. It is the system where every important label has a meaning that people can understand, apply consistently, and use to make decisions. That simplicity matters, because the easier the lifecycle is to follow, the more likely the CRM will reflect reality instead of creating another layer of interpretation.
A reliable CRM does not begin with more data, more automation, or more reporting. It begins with clear meaning. Each lifecycle stage should represent a real change in the relationship and lead to a clear operational response. When those meanings are consistent, the CRM becomes easier to trust. When they are not, every system built on top inherits the same confusion.